Hi everyone, it's Tash from Run Wild Creative and I'm here with Karen Lindley. Karen Lindley moved countries when she was 16 and settled in Sydney, Australia. She was the first gemologist in Australia that started exporting opals to Asia. Karen has run her successful business for over 40 years now.
Yes, just on 40 years.
Just on 40 years. And her jewelry has been worn by the likes of the Duchess of York and other celebrities. Karen, tell me about what it was like to arrive in Sydney when you were 16. What did you do?
Well, it was very scary on reflection, but at the time I thought I was 6 foot tall and bulletproof. But I was here about a week before I found a job. I actually got a job cutting film. As like not an editor, but literally in those days they didn't have videos or anything that they have now, and you had to splice the film. So I trained and got a job doing that because I was on my way to England. I was going to capture the world. Well, I didn't actually decide to settle in Sydney. I discovered at 18 that I was having a baby. And in those days, which was in 1971, you didn't keep your baby, you gave it up for adoption, and there was no way that I was going to do that.
So you started off developing film and then selling business products, and then somehow you moved to opals and
Well, when I had this little baby, I determined that there was no way that my child was going to be disadvantaged because I'd decided to raise him by myself. And I had come from a sales background. My family were in selling, and the one thing I knew how to do was how to sell. And I got a job selling cladding, home cladding. So whenever I ran short of money or I could see that the coffers were getting low, I would hire a Karatani nurse to look after my son, and I'd go off for a month selling cladding and make enough money that I didn't have to work for the rest of the year.
Wow. So how did you learn about selling and sales?
Well, as I said, I came from a sales-orientated background. My parents had a general store, and from the time I was this high, although when I was small, my father was general manager of a company called Mackenzie's, which was like Woolworths, but we were always in the shops and always doing things, and he had stores here and then he'd be transferred to another place, so always we were involved from that aspect. And then when I think I was about 13, they moved to the country and bought a general store, and we used to work in there as well. So I had a good solid background, which I didn't appreciate or realise at the time, but now I do.
Okay, great. How was it studying gemology while raising a child at the same time?
It was difficult. I failed my first year. And at the time I was working for an opal dealer, and I was his personal assistant secretary, and I was, as a rule, selling more product than he was. And he decided to get involved in other areas, but along that way I decided that I would become a gemologist. And as I said, I failed my first year and I was mortified. So the next 2 years I studied really hard to do really well. And I think I qualified about 1980, somewhere around there.
So you've run your business for almost 4 decades, and it's quite successful. What would you say to somebody that's starting off their own creative business? What are 3 points you would say?
Get up early. The early bird always catches the worm. Always be observant. I am very observant. I can spot something a mile off that's a little bit edgy, a little bit different, and often that has given me a competitive edge, and always make a profit. My basic business philosophy has always been that business has to be made because bills have to be paid, and unless you're making a profit you cannot sustain a business, and there's nothing wrong with making a profit. You know, often I find that people think that you should do things for nothing. Well, I don't do anything for nothing. I do in my personal life or if I'm helping somebody, but when it comes to my business, that is what sustains my life, and I have to make a profit. and I have a minimum line, and I just don't go below it. And people, if they come to me, they get a much better deal than they're going to get anywhere else, but I still make that minimal profit. Sometimes I make a larger one, but I don't go below my line.
Do you calculate that per client, or is it?
No, per client.
So it's per client.
Per client, absolutely.
But you have that line that you just don't budge from, where you know.
No, I have a range. This is my minimal profit line, and this is where I'd like to make a profit, and sometimes you can do that. And it just, a lot depends on how well I've bought something. A lot depends on if I like the person. A lot depends on if I've had a good week or a good month, or they give me a good story, or if I'm helping somebody. But I still make a profit. That's the number one element in business. If you don't make a profit, you don't have a business.
What's a typical day for you?
On the days that I'm working, now I only work Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays. Mondays and Fridays I'm at home. So on a Tuesday I'll get up really, really early, probably 4:30, 4:45.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I'll have a shower, check my emails overnight, and get ready for work, and go and say hello to my animals, throw some food at the ducks, throw some food at the chickens and the rabbits, and then head off out that gate about 6 o'clock in the morning. And on the way I'll call suppliers overseas or call friends in Europe, and I get into my office about 6:45 in the morning. I have another coffee. And then between sort of 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock is a very productive time for me. I can work out what I've got to get from where, what I'm sending to where, what my daily plan is. I do quite a lot of charity work, so I like to have that time in the morning to do the work that's going to bring money in the door, because I never know when the charity work is going to take me away from that, and I don't like to not be able to do that. So then I just plan my day, and I don't generally go out to lunch. I'm there all day till maybe 7 o'clock at night, and a few more coffees, and then I'll come home and have some supper and do a bit of browsing on the internet, go to bed and read a book till about 10 o'clock. Just every time I travel I buy 3 or 4 business books. But the most important thing I've got from them is how to think differently. For example, people think if you want to make a profit, if you want to increase your profitability, that you have to raise your prices, when in fact that's not true. To increase your profitability, you have to minimize your costs. A big difference between increasing your margin but minimizing your costs. And I actually run my business on the smell of an oily rag. I do. I don't go out and have great, expensive lunches. I don't go and buy new flashy cars that I have to lease. Everything I have I own. My car is 12 years old, and I can see absolutely no reason to get rid of it because it works perfectly. The same with my stock. I like to keep my stock at a minimal level and turn it over constantly to always have fresh stock. So many people that I've seen, they just go and buy it on the business, and I don't do that. Just the same as I don't run my personal life through my business. If you want to be successful in business, as I say, you've got to make a profit. I also like to give back. I work for my industry. I do whatever I can to promote my industry. I sit on industry boards. I sit on industry committees. I contribute to the gemological side of it as well, if there's papers and things like that I can contribute to. Giving back to your industry is a really good way to reward your business and be thankful for what you've got.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Karen.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming on.
Okay, let's have a look and see how bad I look. Not that I really care.